Washington Athletics and quarterback Damon Williams have put out some statements. Damon Williams obviously put it out a couple days ago that he was going to leave Washington, enter the transfer portal after just 4 days before entering a contract agreement to stay with the Huskies for 2026. Well, after probably reading his contract and after his lawyer decides that he's no longer going to represent him, it seems like Damon Williams has put out a statement saying, after thoughtful reflection with my family, I'm excited to announce that I will continue my football journey at the University of Washington. This is an official statement, by the way. He says, I'm deeply grateful with my coaches, teammates, and everyone in the program for fostering an environment where I can thrive both as an athlete and as an individual. I am fully committed and focused on contributing to what we are building. There's some other things that he wants to talk about, but initially that's the beginning of his statement. I mean, let's be honest, it's a little hilarious, especially those words right there. I am fully committed, when just hours before he was willing to go chase a bag somewhere, most likely LSU.
You really question the integrity of that, to be completely honest. If it's like, the first thing I thought was not that like he doesn't mean it or whatever, but like, how do you, what does that even mean? You're fully committed. Was that when that comment came out, I was wondering if we were going to get like a hacked. That statement was released without my knowing. Like, how do you completely 180 from, yeah, this is best for me, I'm going to go ahead and move on, to, you know what, after careful consideration, I think I'm going to go ahead and return. I don't see the line of thought process there. And I do think that there's going to be, and it feels so unnecessary now, but like, there is so much repairing that needs to be done. Unfortunately, and obviously the timing of the whole thing was just really rough. When his statement came out, the fact that he hadn't talked to anybody prior, like didn't even say like, hey, by the way, I'm thinking about it, because he had just signed the contract that said explicitly, like, you can't go into the transfer portal. I was expecting to get another one of those, I believe it was Xavier Lucas that dropped out of Wisconsin and then enrolled at Miami. That type of situation with the whole like contract and everything. It ends up settling down, and this is probably for the best. But this is the way I see it, and I just want to fire this question back at you. Does Washington have to do something about this? Because I feel like if nothing ends up happening here, if Washington just completely brushes this off, which obviously you want Damon Williams on your team, so you can't just get rid of him or whatever, but they have to do something basically to set precedent here. I feel like the whole college football world is watching, and they are in a position to either reprimand or like what needs to happen here basically to avoid this happening down the road.
I've covered college football for about a decade now, and completely followed through this brand new with NIL transfer portal. I've seen it from firsthand, basically. With the most part, obviously there's been some transfers and things in the past, but nothing like this that we've seen over the first, this last decade. I will tell you this: when things like this happen, now this scenario doesn't happen too often, of course, especially the way it happened. We'll get into it in just a minute. There's going to be some people that it doesn't matter what you do, you're not gonna be able to replace this damage. You're not gonna be able to repair it.
Right.
And it's usually the older generation, the older alumni, which usually means the older donors. Some of those are willing to say, you know what, just get through it. You signed a contract, play your games, but when you're done, you're done. You're a former Husky. You're not a Husky for life kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's some people that are going to be like that, where they're just going to move on. Other people, and this is probably the majority these days, the ones that live on social media, the younger generation of the college football fan, are very easy in the times heals all wounds category, especially if he wins football games. Yep. If he gets Washington to the college football playoffs last year, no one is going to remember that he dropped his statement saying he was leaving the University of Washington when they were doing a celebration of life for a University of Washington soccer player, which was the worst timing, might I add, because in this world of college athletics, athletes have never been more disconnected than what they used to be. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that you don't have an idea what's going on at your own university, and I mean, you're just showing us a complete selfish look, that's one thing. But I will say that the unfortunate part is that if you win, the majority of fans will forget that ever happened. It'll become just a lore of the story. And I think you have to look at it from both edges of the sword. And if you don't, then I think you're kind of dumb. You have to know that both sides are going to happen. There's going to be some people that can never forgive you. They're going to say, guess what? You signed a contract. You're here. You might as well be quarterback on this team. The other sides are going to say, just win, baby. Just win.
Yeah. Well, the more that he wins, it will get brought up because it'll be in these bigger games. It'll get brought up throughout the entire season if they continue to win, right? If they're playing in, the first round of the playoffs, they'll say, remember when this happened, but they'll only bring it up one time. It'll be a big part of the story early on. And if you lose, then it becomes, after an interception late in the game or a fail, 3 and out or whatever, that's not really a story, but it's mentioned more times by the broadcast, which is then just replanting that seed into the viewers over and over and over. Like, this is like, there's something here with like potential team chemistry. Remember, he did this like just a few months ago, and then they don't win the game. And then it's like, oh, I wonder if this was a case of like what happened here. That's totally valid. I think that's what you're talking about with like win and it cures all. If you just keep winning, it'll show that it didn't matter. It wasn't a locker room breaker. It wasn't that big of a deal as far as output on the field. And so there is that to look forward to if you're Damon Williams. If you can just win games, it will all probably be okay. I saw a lot of people talking about, did he tank his draft stock with this? I don't know. I mean, yes, maybe no. I think it's one of those things where a lot of places are going to be able to say he's just a college kid, made a huge mistake, but it's one mistake, essentially released one graphic. I think you can get over that. I just wonder what this means for college football, because this one ends up being not that big a deal, right? If he ends up going back and wins or loses, whatever, he stayed there, he honored his contract. Was weird that he released a statement, but it's whatever. We were heading down a very real path, though, where he just basically left after signing a contract. And then what does that make contracts? What does that make commitments? We're already at a place where if a player commits to a school, I don't even think twice about it, because there's a 99% chance that they're going to say, oh, I'm going to actually, decommit here, verbally commit over here. Once I committed, I just got a bunch of other calls from these bigger schools that now they know about me and they're willing to pay me more. That's already happening versus once players are at school, sign contracts. Oh, once they sign this contract, someone else is willing to outbid it because they know the number. Like, the whole landscape is just chaos right now. And I'm looking towards Washington as a precedent center here, because Wisconsin, Miami, nothing really came of that last year.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you're right there. I think you hit the nail right on the head. When you're talking about his NFL draft stock, this isn't the first time a college athlete has made a boneheaded mistake and maybe received bad advice as well. So I don't think it's going to impact him. What I do think will impact him is this. And I think you're right. Winning cures all. And I think I'm kind of circling the wagon here, circling back to what you're saying, maybe saying it a little differently. But the moment he has an issue with a coach on the sidelines, the moment that he has an issue saying one receiver didn't run the right route, the moment they struggle against an FCS or a G5 opponent, any of those moments happening, that narrative is coming right back up. Yeah. He brought unwanted stress, unwanted pressure, unneeded pressure on a Washington team, a Big Ten team that had a great season. Maybe it wasn't the perfect season, but had a great season, to where the fact that if you now you're sitting at unneeded pressure. And the moment that happens, the moment that you get to the point that you are no longer maybe out of the college football playoffs, things happen in 2026, all they're going to talk about is the fact, well, this team could have been better if it wasn't for the offseason scrum.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it's going to be. And it's sad because it's a completely avoidable scenario. It ended up being just one of those things where if you didn't end up releasing the graphic, it's not even a story. It's maybe a conversation that was had behind closed doors, and there's a couple people that are upset about it, but it doesn't make it to the public. Now it's like every Husky fan knows about this, and every team that they play is going to bring this up. Like now it's spiraled to this whole thing that ended up being a whole lot bigger than it needed to be. And you hate that for Washington. You hate that for everything, that's going on over there. But like you said it best, like literally because it's January 9th, in 10 months on November 9th, if they have 7-8 wins, I don't know what it would be at that point in the season, no one will really be talking about this. They'll just be talking about Damon Williams Heisman? Is Damon Williams the Heisman candidate? Like the media moves so fast. So it really comes down to how successful they are.